Welcome back to Billionaire Success Lessons. Today, we are telling the story of a man who was rejected again and again. And still found a way to build one of the most influential business empires in modern history. This is the story of Jack Ma, a man who did not begin as a tech genius, did not come from wealth, did not have powerful connections, and did not fit the image people usually imagine. He began as a dreamer with a strange mix of humility, stubbornness, curiosity, and courage. And what makes his journey unforgettable is not just that he became rich. It is that he kept moving forward when almost every visible sign in his early. Jack Ma was not the kind of child people looked at and said, "That boy will become one of the richest men in China." He was born in Hangzhou. And his early life was ordinary by every traditional standard. He was not known for being a top student in mathematics. In fact, he struggled badly in that subject. He failed important entrance exams more than once. He did not move through school with the effortless brilliance that often get. His road was slower, rougher, and filled with embarrassment. But sometimes the people who struggle early build the deepest kind of strength, because they are forced to learn how to keep going without applause. As a young boy, Jack became obsessed with learning English. He would ride his bicycle to meet foreign tourists and speak with them, practicing. He did not do this because it was easy. He did it because he was hungry for a wider world. He sensed, even then, that language was more than vocabulary. Language was while other people may have seen as shy or unusual, boys spending time with strangers from other countries, Jack was quietly building a skill that would later change his life. He was teaching himself how to connect beyond the limits of his environment. That is one of the earliest lessons in Jack Ma's story. Success often begins long before money appears. It begins in private habits. It begins in strange interests. It begins in the things other people do not understand. Many people abandon the very thing that could one day make them exceptional simply because it looks unimportant in the beginning. Jack kept going, he kept learning, he kept practicing. And over time, the English he learned from curiosity became one of the tools that opened the world to him. But learning English did not make life easy overnight. Jack Ma faced rejection over and over again. He has become famous for telling stories about how many times he was turned down. He was rejected by schools, rejected by jobs, and overlooked in ways that would eventually. Jack graduated and became an English teacher. Before Alibaba, or before the speeches, before the global fame, before the billions, Jack Ma stood in classrooms teaching students and earning a modest living. But it was not the final destination of his ambition. Somewhere inside him, there was still a restless voice telling him that there had to be something more. Not because teaching was too small, but because his imagination was growing faster than his circumstances. Then came one of the most important turning points of his life. In 1995, Jack traveled to the United States and encountered the internet for the first time. That moment changed the direction of his life. Most people, when they meet a new technology, see a tool. A few people see a future. Jack saw a future. He realized that if the internet was going to reshape business, communication, and then China could not remain invisible in that new digital world. What he saw was not just a screen. He saw a blank map. And blank maps call out to builders. When he returned to China, he founded China Pages, one of the country's first. It did not become the giant success that Alibaba would later become. In fact, he left China Pages after a couple of years, partly because of strong competition. That is a painful but essential chapter of the story. Before Jack Ma built the company that made him famous, he built a company that taught him hard lessons. He learned what early internet business looked like. He learned what competition felt like. He learned how fragile a new venture could be when the market was not yet ready or failure did not end his entrepreneurial life, it educated it. This is where many people misread success. They think the winning chapter proves that earlier painful chapters were mistakes. But often the painful chapters are exactly what make the later victory possible. China Pages may not have become the empire he dreamed of, but it gave Jack Ma experience. It gave him scars. It gave him wisdom. It taught him that timing matters, partnerships matter, and positioning matters. It taught him that being early can feel a lot like being wrong, even when the bigger Jack Ma worked in Beijing as the head of an internet company backed by the ministry. He eventually realized that if he stayed too close to government work, he might So he made another bold move. He left the safer path and returned to Hangzhou with his team. In 1999, in his apartment, he and 17 others founded Alibaba. That beginning is now legendary. But at the time it was just a risky idea, in a small room, with people willing to believe in something that did not yet exist. Alibaba was built around a simple but powerful mission: make it easy to do business anywhere. At first, the company focused on helping small businesses connect and trade. Jack Ma believed that the internet could level the playing field for smaller. This belief became one of the deepest foundations of Alibaba's rise. Jack was not just trying to build a website. He was trying to build access. He was trying to use technology to give ordinary businesses a bigger chance. Great entrepreneurs do not always begin with complicated ideas. Often, they begin with a clear pain point and an unshakable belief that it can be solved better. Still, belief alone was not enough. Alibaba struggled in its early years. Money was tight. Trust was hard to earn. The internet economy was still young. Investors had to be convinced. Customers had to be educated. And Jack Ma himself was not a programmer. That is one of the most fascinating details about his rise. He did not build Alibaba because he was the best engineer in the room. He built it because he could see the direction of the market, communicate it. He understood people, energy, belief, and he was not coding the future line by line. He was rallying it into existence. That may be one of the most powerful lessons in his life. You do not have to be the most technical person to build something extraordinary. You do not have to master every tool yourself. But you do need to see clearly, persuade strongly, and persist long enough for others to see what you see. Jack Ma's strength was not that he could do everything. His strength was that he could make people believe something impossible was worth attempting. Alibaba began to grow, and soon, larger opportunities appeared. In 2003, Jack Ma launched Taobao, a consumer-to-consumer marketplace, at a time when eBay and Ishnet had a dominant share of the market in China. Many people would have looked at that landscape and thought it was too late. Why fight an established global giant? But Jack Ma saw weakness where others saw strength. eBay and Ishnet charged transaction fees, while Taobao did not. Instead, Taobao earned money through advertising and extra services. That decision helped the platform gain traction fast. By understanding local users more deeply and reducing friction, Taobao began to change the game. Then came another bold move: trust. One of the hardest problems in e-commerce, especially in its early days, was trust. How do buyers feel safe? How do sellers get paid? Alipay was created in 2003 to act as a third party in transactions. That was not just a payment innovation. It was a psychological breakthrough. Jack Ma understood that commerce is not only about products and prices, it is about confidence. If people do not trust the system, they will not use it. If they do trust it, everything can grow faster. Great business builders often win not simply by offering a service, but by removing a fear. As Alibaba expanded, the company began to attract international attention. Yahoo bought a 40% stake in 2005, and in 2007, Alibaba.com raised about $1.70. Those were major milestones, but they did not happen because Jack Ma suddenly became lucky. They happened because years of stubborn, disciplined building were finally becoming visible to the world. This is another truth about success. From the outside, people often notice your In reality, success usually begins much earlier, in the invisible years when nobody is celebrating you yet. Jack Ma's story is also powerful because of his style. He was never the cold, distant executive type. He was energetic, humorous, unusual, and willing to speak in a way that made him stand out. Some people saw him as eccentric. Others saw him as magnetic. But underneath that charisma was a hard-earned philosophy shaped by rejection and struggle. He often spoke about resilience, failure, teamwork, and long-term thinking. That worldview was not manufactured for speeches. It came from life. When a man has been turned down again and again and he still finds a way forward, his optimism has weight. It is not blind positivity, it is tested belief. In 2014, Alibaba made history with its debut on the New York Stock Exchange. That moment turned Jack Ma into a global symbol of entrepreneurial success. But even here, the deeper story is not the size of the number. It is the distance traveled. From a boy who struggled in school to a teacher. From a teacher to a first-time internet entrepreneur. From a failed early venture to a small apartment full of believers. From that apartment to one of the largest public offerings in history. The money is impressive. The journey is what makes it unforgettable. And yet success did not mean life became simple. In 2018, Jack Ma announced he would step down as chairman the following year. In 2020, after he publicly criticized China's financial regulatory system and this part of the story matters because it reminds us that even the most successful power does not remove pressure. It increases it. There is something deeply human in that chapter. Many people imagine success as a straight line upward, as though the moment you But life does not work that way. Jack Ma's journey shows that even after enormous achievements, new trials can The story of success is rarely, I won, and then everything stayed easy. More then discovered there were more. What makes Jack Ma's life meaningful is not just that he built Alibaba. It is that he transformed repeated rejection into unusual courage. He taught himself that being dismissed does not define you. He learned that failing an exam is not the end of your future. He learned that being rejected by jobs does not mean you have no value. He learned that early setbacks can become training for later opportunities. And perhaps that is why so many people around the world connect with his story. Because most people know what rejection feels like. Most people know what it is like to feel behind, overlooked, or not good enough. Jack Ma's journey gives those people a reason to keep going. For anyone watching today on Billionaire Success Lessons, there is a lesson here. Jack Ma did not win because life was fair to him. He won because he kept responding when life was unfair. He did not wait to feel fully qualified. He kept learning. He did not demand perfect conditions. He moved with what he had. He did not let humiliation become identity. He treated it as temporary. And that is one of the most powerful abilities a person can develop. The ability to go through failure without letting failure become who they are. There is also a profound lesson in the way Jack Ma used his weakness. He was not a technical mastermind. But because he was not trapped inside engineering alone, he focused intensely on. He thought about what people feared, what that they needed, and what would help small. Sometimes the trait you think disqualifies you actually forces you to develop it. Jack Ma's limitations may have pushed him toward his greatest edge. And that is why his story still matters. Not because he became a billionaire, though that is certainly remarkable. It matters because his life is proof that a rough beginning does not destroy a meaningful future. It proves that failure can prepare you instead of burying you. It proves that vision matters more than appearances, that persistence matters more than early results. And that sometimes the people who look least likely to change the world are the very ones who do. So when you think about Jack Ma, do not just think about Alibaba. Think about the boy on a bicycle, chasing English words with foreign tourists. Think about the young man failing exams and trying again. Think about the teacher who sensed a bigger future. Think about the entrepreneur whose first internet venture did not become a giant. Think about the founder in the apartment, gathering a small group around a fragile dream. Think about the man who kept betting on possibility when the evidence was still thin. That is the real story. That is the part worth remembering. Because in the end, Jack Ma's journey is not just about business, it is about belief. It is about daring to imagine a larger life when your current reality gives you. It is about continuing after embarrassment. It is about making meaning out of rejection. It is about building when you are not the obvious winner. And that is exactly why his story belongs here on Billionaire Success Lessons. If this story spoke to you, remember the lesson Jack Ma's life keeps repeating. Failure is not a permanent identity, and a slow beginning can still lead to a historic destination. Sometimes the people who here know the most are the ones who are being trained too.